shooting. They didn't want my daughter to be shot.
A tense standoff unfolds in Wasco during a massive SWAT presence and leaving several first responders wounded. What we know and questions remaining as shots continue to fly. Good evening and good to have you with us here for 17 News at 11. I'm Moses Small. We begin with breaking developments to a story we first brought you during a special edition of 17 News earlier today. Dozens of law enforcement officers formed an honor guard outside of Kern Medical tonight, solemnly saluting as a flag-draped body bag was reverently placed in a hearse. An hour before the procession at the hospital, the sheriff's office had declined to immediately say whether one of their deputies had died in an hours-long standoff in Wasco. But the scene behind the trauma hospital said it all. The county's top law enforcement officers, Sheriff Donnie Youngblood and District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer, led a tearful procession from the hospital to the nearby coroner's office. Men in uniform openly wept as the body bag was carried down a corridor lined with officers and deputies holding a formal salute. Some of the officers wore the dress uniforms reserved for formal occasions, such as funerals. Other officers were dressed in camouflage combat gear, as if they had just come from the firefight that ended a few minutes earlier. That confrontation began at about 1 o'clock this afternoon when deputies were called to a home near Poplar Avenue and Highway 46 in Wasco. The 46 was closed for several hours but has since reopened. 17's Marco Torres has been on scene all day at the neighborhood where Kern County SWAT stood off against the armed suspect. Marco?
Tonight, Wasco is filled with tears, confusion, and frustration following a standoff with Kern County Sheriff Office with an armed suspect here in the area right behind us. What ended up happening that led to 5 individuals being injured, 2 of which being KCSO deputies, 2 individuals victims, and the suspect. At 2:53 p.m., a firefight broke out between Kern County SWAT and an armed man at 1st Street and Poplar Avenue. The sound of heavy caliber weapons filled the air and lasted for up to 30 seconds as deputies held their ground. Just at 3 p.m., law enforcement officers heard the chilling call. It was deafening.
Officer down. We need medical aid to move up.
It was confirmed through KCSO 2 officers were shot during this firefight. All the department will officially say is that 1 officer received major injuries and the other moderate. Both were rushed to KMC to be treated.
A couple like an hour or so passed by and then started shooting and everything, and then it's just getting crazy, so I just got in the room away from all the shooting and I just waited to come down.
KCSO received a call for a shooting in the 1700 block of 1st Street at 1 p.m. Deputies arrived on scene to chaos, people fleeing the home saying there are still people inside. The deputies were shot at by the armed male suspect but took cover. Negotiators tried to talk the suspect down and get him to release his hostages. We heard negotiators say in Spanish, "We have an ambulance here for your family." Minutes later, more shots rang. The situation continued for hours with multiple exchanges of gunfire, and then silence.
At approximately 6:28, which was about 15 minutes ago, an additional officer-involved shooting occurred. The suspect was struck. The suspect is currently being treated by medical aid and I believe will be transported to a local hospital. This is still an active investigation. We are still attempting to clear the house to check on the victims inside of the residence. I do not have their status at this point.
Following the final shootout, Kern County Fire went on the property to provide medical attention to the suspect and the victims still inside. However, with a quick entrance followed a quick exit from the medical team. The current conditions for the suspect and victims are unknown. Sheriff officials say they will release more information on the victims, the officers involved in the shooting, and the suspect tomorrow. In Wasco, Marco Torres, 17 News.